Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive. We've basically pulled together a stack of recent articles, specifically all published on CoinMarketCap on June 2nd, 2025. And we want to see what insights we can really extract about, the current state of the crypto market. So our mission really is to unpack what these sources are highlighting, identify the key projects, the trends, market movements they're discussing, and figure out what all of that actually means for you trying to navigate this space.
Yeah, and what's interesting about looking at this specific stack is just how diverse it is. We've got pieces covering, the established names, but also brand new pre-sales that are causing a bit of a stir, and then specific technical indicators and even some mentions of like external factors that might be influencing the market. Looking at it all together, it paints a much fuller picture than just one report ever could.
Absolutely. It's like getting several different snapshots of the market, but all on the same day. So, all right, let's start pulling these threads then. What are the sources really pointing to first when it comes to specific projects?
Well, one name definitely stands out. It actually appeared in two separate articles, which is Qubetics. Both sources highlight pretty significant momentum in its pre-sale. They're citing figures right around, I think, the $17.6 million mark.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And what these articles seem to be focusing on with Qubetics is its platform for real-world asset tokenization. So essentially turning, tangible assets or traditional investments into digital tokens on a blockchain. One source even labels it specifically as a top crypto presale.
$17.6 million in a presale. That's a pretty substantial figure. Suggests some serious early interest, at least according to these reports.
Okay, so we have a new project getting some buzz. What about some of the coins we're already familiar with? Did the sources touch on those?
Right, exactly. Moving from the kind of fresh faces to the more established landscape. Yeah, these articles give us a quick pulse check. Kaspa, for instance, is noted as still climbing its way up the ranks, so that indicates, continued positive momentum, according to the source.
But then on the other hand, Tezos is described as being in more of a recovery phase right now, sort of trying to find its footing again after, recent movements.
So we're seeing different points in the market life cycle reflected here. Some climbing, some in recovery. That's a useful contrast. What about like broader market sentiment or shifts happening right now that these articles pick up on?
Well, the situation with Shiba Inu, SAB, that's kind of a recurring theme in some of the reports. They note its price is, stuck. They describe it as having an oversold status based on technical indicators
Mm-hmm.
and mention that sell-offs are actually picking up. This combination of factors is highlighted as creating, weak market momentum and shaking confidence among holders. It's according to these sources anyway.
Right. That paints a pretty challenging picture for SA based on these articles. And related to that sentiment, does one source point out that whales, the large holders, seem to be reacting?
Exactly, yeah. The same article discussing his struggles also notes that whales appear to be shifting away from it. And according to the source, they're betting on new plays,
Yeah, okay.
which suggests that, significant capital might be reallocating, perhaps seeing better potential elsewhere in the market based on the current outlooks reported. It's kind of a classic move, isn't it, for large players looking for the next catalyst?
Yeah, fascinating to see that potential shift happening alongside the reported struggles. So beyond the established names and the shifting sentiment, the sources also touch on other narratives and, well, some really new entrants, don't they?
They do, yeah. SUI gets a mention as gaining steam, which the source links directly to the ongoing L2 or Layer 2 hype in the market. The excitement around technologies making blockchain transactions faster and cheaper.
Right, the L2 narrative.
And Monero is also noted specifically for holding steady, sort of maintaining its position within the privacy-focused coin markets, which seems, notable given market fluctuations elsewhere.
Okay, and then there's BlockDAG. One source points to its current price, 0.001 on scene.
Yeah, that's the one.
And it goes further, making some pretty bold claims, doesn't it?
It does. The source suggests BlockDAG could be the next big break, and even labels it potentially the best crypto to buy now in a time when market optimism is reportedly on the rise.
That's certainly a strong endorsement cited in one of the sources there.
It is. And then on a completely different end of the spectrum for new entrants, one article simply reports the launch of FUC Coin
Oh, right.
on the Solana blockchain, noting its initial market cap at $9.6 million.
Right.
Only in crypto, eh? It certainly shows the sheer diversity and speed at which new projects across the entire spectrum of seriousness and purpose can just emerge and gain value, well, at least initially.
It definitely highlights the wild range of activity these articles are capturing. So how do these individual project mentions and narratives connect to the larger flow of money reported in the market?
Well, one of the sources includes a report from CoinShares, and it notes a pretty significant $286 million surge in crypto funds coming in last week.
$286 million, okay.
And what's particularly interesting from that report, as cited in the article, is that Ether actually topped these purchases.
So according to this report, we see institutional money flowing in and a lot of it heading towards Ether specifically.
That's what the source indicates, yes. But the CoinShares report, as highlighted in the article, also points out what it calls a contrasting scenario, which is showing these substantial investment inflows happening alongside selling pressures elsewhere in the market.
Ah, okay. So money coming in, but also money going out or shifting around.
Exactly. This seemingly contradictory situation suggests a market that isn't just moving in one unified direction, but perhaps experiencing, capital rotation within larger portfolios, some assets being bought heavily while others see profit-taking or position adjustments.
Yeah, that point about inflows alongside selling pressure is really key. It shows the complexity beneath the surface, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And just to round out the picture presented in these articles, there's even a mention of an external, non-crypto factor playing a role.
Right. One source, it's cited as bitcoininfonews.com in the outline, but the article itself just references it. It reports on a China warning amid U.S. tensions and notes that the crypto market is reacting to this.
Okay.
And the article frames this purely as an external geopolitical event that the market, according to that source, is responding to. We're just reporting what the source states here, obviously, just to show the range of factors these articles include. We're not taking any political stance ourselves.
Understood. Yeah. It's presented as an external influence in that particular report.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking a step back now and looking at all these pieces together, we've got the Qubetics presale momentum, the RWA focus, Kaspa climbing, Tezos seeking recovery, Hedgie's reported struggles, whale movements, shifting focus, SUI riding the L2 narrative, Monero holding steady in privacy, BlockDAG getting these bold mentions, the launch of something like FUCK coin, then the significant fund inflows from CoinShares, Ether leading despite broader selling pressure, and this external China-U.S. tension factor cited. Hugh, what kind of picture does this mosaic paint of the market on, June 2nd?
Well, what's fascinating is exactly the mosaic effect. These articles, all from the same day, collectively show a market that's just incredibly active and diverse across multiple dimensions. You see established sectors facing challenges, undergoing adjustments, ongoing tech narratives like L2 driving interest in specific projects, huge energy, and, claims around brand new entrants and presales, significant institutional capital making targeted moves, and even global geopolitical events being perceived as market drivers by some sources.
It really highlights that there's no single story in crypto right now, is there? It's a composite of all these different forces and narratives just playing out simultaneously, from, the highly speculative meme coin world to serious institutional asset allocation.
Exactly. And it's crucial to remember these are snapshots, just from a single day's reporting, reflecting the info and perspectives available to those specific authors at that moment. But seeing them together helps you appreciate the sheer scope of what's actually happening.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to stay informed? How does looking at this stack of sources help you understand the current environment?
Well, I think it helps you see the full range of activity.
Right.
Everything from multi-million-dollar institutional fund movements into Ether, right down to a meme coin launching with, a nearly $10 million market cap on day one.
Yeah.
You see different projects at vastly different stages, and how external factors, even seemingly distant ones like geopolitical tensions, are cited by some as having an impact. It really underscores that understanding this market isn't about tracking just one thing. It's about seeing how all these disparate elements are interacting,
It's definitely a lot to process, but seeing these different threads pulled from the sources together does provide a much more textured and, frankly, probably more realistic view of the market's complexity.
Yeah, it moves beyond just a simple up or down narrative.
Yeah.
It shows the multiple currents flowing, at least based on reports like these from June 2nd.
All right, let's wrap this deep dive up then. We've touched on the specific projects getting buzzed, like the Qubetics presale and its RWA focus, Kaspa climbing, Tezos seeking recovery, BlockDAG's bold claims, and even FV Coin's launch.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at market dynamics like A-Sheebs reported price issues and potential whale shifts, and those significant fund inflows reported by CoinShares, including ether-topping purchases, alongside those selling pressures.
Right.
And we included the mention of external influences like the China-U.S. tensions cited in one source.
And the value here, I think, is in seeing these multiple perspectives side by side, taken directly from the sources, just to get a much more comprehensive view of the market's complexity on that specific day.
Absolutely. And, well, that leaves us with a question to consider, doesn't it? Building on everything we've unpacked from these sources today, given this mix, established projects navigating challenges, promising pre-sales getting significant reported attention, meme coins launching with millions in market cap overnight, serious institutional money moving into specific assets, and even external global factors influencing things simultaneously. How do you personally evaluate potential or filter out the noise? How do you decide what information is most relevant when you're presented with this kind of diverse data from the crypto space? It really highlights the constant challenge of just making sense of it all.
It's a question that definitely requires constant refinement of your perspective, for sure.